Welcome back to the Beer Junkies. Today we are brewing an American lager. The American lager is a very light and crisp beer with a very neutral flavor profile. There's a low bitterness with a mild malt flavor, but it is perfect for the hot summer days that are quickly approaching. We're going to walk you through the ingredients we use, the water profile, the malts, the hops, and the yeast strain. Also going to walk you through our process, the mashing, mash out, the sparge, the boil, whirlpool, knockout, fermentation, and at the very end, we're going to walk you through that taste test. So let's get started. The water profile for our American lager is 50 parts per million of calcium, 5 parts per million of sodium, 75 parts per million of sulfate, and 60 parts per million of chloride. To do that, I'm going to add calcium chloride, gypsum, and Epsom salt to both the mash water and the sparge water. Right now, I have the mash water heating up and filling up to the right volume and temperature in the hot liquor tank. So while that's getting all ready, let's go over the grains we're going to be using. The starting gravity for our American lager is 1045, and to get there, I start with about 70% of a Pilsner Malt. This will give me plenty of fermentable sugars, also adding a nice grainy flavor. Now I do like to add a little bit more grainy flavor than the Pilsner Malt can do on its own, so I do add 10 to 12% of a Vienna Malt. The rest of it is flaked corn. You can add up to about 30% of flaked corn before you start to dilute the mashing enzymes and the nutrients to a level that will give you some problems. So for this recipe, I start at about 20% of flaked corn. That corn will not add any flavor or color, just fermentable sugars, so it will allow us to produce a light, crisp beer. The mashing water is ready, so let's mash all of that in. This is our mashing setup as normal, pulling the wort from the bottom of the mash tun, pushing it through our pump, through the Herms coil to maintain our temperature, and we are recirculating to set up our grain bed filter. We mash our American lager at 152 degrees Fahrenheit for about 60 minutes to get us a nice mix of alpha and beta amylase. Once that timer is up, we will raise it to 168 degrees for mash out. We've got about 20 minutes left in our mash, so I'll be back when it's time to raise that temperature. We just finished our mash, so now we are mashing out. The same setup as before, pulling wort from the bottom of the mash tun, pushing it through our pump through the Herms coil. But now we are heating up our hot liquor tank to about 177 degrees to raise this mash tun up to 168 degrees. Once we mash out, we will begin to sparge. We just got to 168 degrees Fahrenheit, so now we are sparging, pulling wort from the bottom of the mash tun. The lever is now directed towards the boil kettle, which is filling up and heating up. At the same time, we are pulling our sparge water from the hot liquor tank, pushing it through this pump, and then rinsing the residual sugars left in the grains. We just got to a boil, so we will boil this for 90 minutes. But while this is boiling, let's go over the hops that we're going to be using. The hopping for the American lager is very simple, with just a single bittering addition at 60 minutes. I add 14 to 18 IBUs of middle fruit. You can use any clean bittering hop that you want. We don't need to add any hop flavor or aroma for this style, so just this single addition will do. We just finished our boil, so now we are whirlpooling, pulling the wort from the bottom of the boil kettle, pushing it through our pump through the tangential input to create a vortex inside of the boil kettle to pull all of the hops and proteins to the center so we do not push them into the fermenter during knockout. We just finished the whirlpool, so now we are knocking out, pulling wort from the bottom of the boil kettle, pushing it through our pump through the heat exchanger. We are going through at right around 60 degrees, so I need to slow that down. We have our oxygen being injected right there, and we are pushing through that hose, filling up the fermenter and pushing out all that excess air. For this American lager, we use the American lager yeast from Yeast. I'll pitch this at 50 degrees Fahrenheit and let that free rise up to 52 degrees as fermentation starts. I'll hold it here for about a week or until we are 4 specific gravity points away from our terminal gravity, which for this beer is 1012 with a terminal gravity of 1008. At this point, I will let it free rise up to at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit, but preferably closer to 70 degrees for that diacetyl rest. Once it reaches that temperature, I'll hold it there for 24 hours, and then I will begin to drop that fermenter 4 degrees a day until we get to 33 degrees Fahrenheit for that cold crash. I don't do it all at once. I step it down slowly because I don't want to shock that yeast. It still has some work to do. Once we get to 33 degrees, I'll hold it there for 24 hours, and then I will transfer it to our bright tank, carbonate it to about 2.7 volumes, keg it, Let it lager for at least 12 weeks, then it will finally be ready to be enjoyed. All right, this is what we've got. It is very pale, crystal clear with a white head for the aroma. There's not a whole lot going on. I do get a little bit of that graininess coming through, but nothing hop-wise. The taste, it's very similar to the aroma. No hop flavor at all, but there's a counteracting bitterness. It's got a crisp finish. There's a little bit of graininess that I get about halfway through the sip. It's very refreshing. We're over the age of 21. We do not condone underage drinking. Please drink responsibly. Cheers. If you would like to see more brewing content like this, make sure you click that subscribe button right below. And let me know what you'd like to see next in the comments. Cheers.